So I recently booked a last minute trip to Korea and Japan, and it's not the best redemption in the world, but my wife really wanted to go back to Asia at some point this year. And the only opportunity we have is in the coming weeks here. And you know what they say, listen to your wife or else you'll have a crappy life or something like that. So that's why I ended up redeeming a bunch of points for this redemption to get to Korea and Japan. And in this video, I'm gonna walk you through my redemption. My name is Max and I help people maximize their airline miles, hotel points, and credit card points. Remember to hit the like and subscribe button down below, and let's get started. First off, we're based out of San Diego, and San Diego doesn't have a ton of international flights. And the challenge with that is that means there's not much award availability out of San Diego, so we often have to reposition up to LA or San Francisco. In this case, we're repositioning up to LA. We're going from San Diego to LAX on a Delta Airlines flight. That cost us 10,000 flying blue miles and about $31.82 for 2 people. And the reason why we didn't book directly through Delta was that Delta was requiring more points than what Flying Blue was for the same exact flight. And so Delta Airlines is a partner of Flying Blue, and so that means that sometimes we can book Delta flights through Flying Blue. And so I transferred 10,000 American Express points over to Flying Blue in order to book this flight from San Diego to LAX. The cash price was much more than I was willing to pay, so that's why I transferred the credit card points to make that booking. Super short flight, it's only about like a 45-minute flight, but it helps us reposition up to LAX. Now from LAX, we'll be flying LAX to Seoul on Asiana Airlines business class. This is not the best business class ever, but it is still business class, lie flat seats, lounge access, and all the good things that come with business class. And the business class is kind of old. It's on the A380 and the business class looks like this, but again, it's still business class. And the total cost for that for 2 people is 150,000 Air Canada Aeroplan points and about $110 in taxes and fees. Asiana is a Star Alliance airline that partners with Air Canada Aeroplan. So searching on Air Canada Aeroplan, we're able to find the award availability from LAX to Seoul, operated by Asiana Airlines. And so that's when I transferred my American Express points over to Air Canada Aeroplan in order to make that booking. The cash value of this flight is pretty expensive as well, and so that's why we decided to use our points. So that's where points comes in handy and saves us a bunch of money on this business class flight. Once we're in Seoul, I'm going to be using an Airlo eSIM because Airlo offers regional eSIMs that covers me for multiple countries within that same region. And since we're going to Japan after we go to Korea, I can just purchase one Airlo eSIM and it covers me for both Korea and Japan. A 10 gigabyte eSIM is about $37, and it's much cheaper than what my cell phone provider would have charged me for international data roaming, which saves me money so I can spend on a lot more fun things in Korea and Japan. So download the Airlo eSIM app. They have eSIMs for 200 plus individual countries. They have regional eSIMs like I mentioned, and they also have worldwide eSIMs as well. If you want a discount on your first Airlo eSIM, use my code MAX3, and the link will also be down in the description as well. And thanks Airlo for sponsoring today's video. So once we land in Seoul, we're gonna be hanging out in Seoul for a couple of days, and we'll be staying at the Hyatt Andaz. We stayed here in 2023 and loved it. We've stayed at the Grand Hyatt before, we stayed at the Park Hyatt Seoul before, and out of those 3, we like the Andaz the most, mostly because the neighborhood that it's in, it's walkable to a bunch of shopping and restaurants, and it's also right above a train station, and it's centrally located to get to other parts of Seoul, which makes it easy to get around and explore different parts of Seoul. The total cost for 4 nights at the Andaz Seoul is 83,000 Hyatt points. Chase points and Bilt points are the only points that transfer over to Hyatt. In this case, we transferred a little bit of Bilt points and we transferred a little bit of Chase points over to Hyatt in order to make this booking. After spending a few days in Seoul, that's when we'll fly over to Osaka. And in this case, we're not using points, we're just paying cash because it's a short flight and it's pretty cheap. We're flying Jeju Air, and that's the low budget carrier that's based out of Korea. So we'll be flying from Gimpo to Osaka, and the total cost for that is $181 for both of us, and including a checked bag as well. We flew Jeju Air from Busan to Jeju in 2023, and I mean, it's a low budget, low cost carrier, and when you're flying a low cost carrier, you kind of have to set your expectations low and lower them even further and expect to be charged for everything. And it was totally fine for a short flight. It's only like an hour flight. When we're in Osaka, we'll be staying at the Hyatt Caption Hotel, which is Hyatt's new concept hotel, and this is a category 1 Hyatt hotel, so it only costs us 3,500 points per night. We'll be staying 2 nights, and so the total cost for the 2 nights is just 7,000 Hyatt points. In this case, we transferred Chase points over to Hyatt. In my opinion, it's a really good deal, especially if you're staying in Osaka. There's no other Hyatt options in Osaka, and so the Caption is the newest option and the only Hyatt option when it comes to staying at a Hyatt hotel in Osaka. To be honest, the cash price of that hotel for the nights that we're staying is pretty reasonable, but I don't want to pay any additional cash. I have points, might as well use the points to make that redemption. It might not be the best cents per points redemption, but it works for me. I don't have to pay cash. I have the points, redeeming the points for the hotel. And then after Osaka, this was kind of like a last minute thing because I was kind of stalking the award availability for the Park Hyatt Kyoto. The Park Hyatt Kyoto opened a couple years ago and I've only heard good things about it. And award availability opened up a couple days ago. And so that's when I transferred some Chase points over to Hyatt in order to make the booking for 2 nights at the Park Hyatt Kyoto. This was not cheap. It's a category 8 Hyatt hotel. So it's very expensive in points and also very expensive in cash. I would never ever pay the cash rate. So that's why I'm using points, and it's 35,000 points per night. So for 2 nights, it's gonna cost us 70,000 Hyatt points. And it's a high category Hyatt hotel. One night it's gonna cost us 35,000 points and the other night's gonna cost us 40,000 points. And so both together for 2 nights, it's gonna cost us 75,000 Hyatt points. So we transferred Chase points over to Hyatt in order to make that booking. As you saw, the cash rate is very expensive. And so we get to experience and unlock the ability to experience some really awesome luxury hotel without having to pay the cash rate. And so that's the beauty of miles and points. And then from there, we're gonna take the Shinkansen directly from Kyoto back up to Tokyo, and we'll be flying out of Haneda the same exact day, going from Haneda back to LAX. The Shinkansen is probably gonna cost around like $80 to $90 per person one way. And then from the flight from Haneda back to LAX, we'll be flying Japan Airlines Premium Economy. There's no business class award availability. And so this is where we're kind of settling and not wanting to fly economy, but no business class award availability. We're settling in the middle and flying premium economy. In order to book the premium economy ticket on Japan Airlines, we booked through British Airways, and it was 103,000 British Airways Avios and $572.60 for both of us. So not the cheapest in points, but it is still like kind of like the middle ground between business class and economy. And the taxes and fees are like $250 per person, which is pretty normal when it comes to Japan Airlines booking through British Airways. And the reason why I hadn't used British Airways Avios is that I had a bunch of Avios stranded with Qatar Airways and British Airways. And so that's why I just wanted to redeem those instead of having them sit in those accounts and potentially expire. So that's how we're getting back from Asia. And then once we land in LAX, we'll be flying a United flight from LAX down to San Diego. And that was booked for 13,000 life miles and about $31 in taxes and fees for both of us. And the reason why I booked through life miles was that, similar to what my situation with British Airways Avios, is that I had some life miles orphaned in my life miles account from a previous redemption that kind of went wrong. So that's why I had some life miles in my life miles account. I wanted to use that. I could have booked through Air Canada Aeroplan for 6,000 points, or I could have booked through United, but I just had life miles that I wanted to use. And so that's why I decided to use life miles. And it's that weird thing is like, if you fly domestically here in the US on a super short flight, airlines tend to charge you a lot of money for that super short flight. So the cash price to get from LA to San Diego was much more than I was willing to pay. So that's why I redeemed points. And coming off of an international trip and being super jet lagged, I did not want to have to drive from LA down to San Diego. So that's why I booked that ticket from LA to San Diego. So if you're following along, that's 6 cities, 5 segments of flights, and then 5 different airlines as well, 3 different hotels, 1 train, and a total of 434,000 points. 276 of them were used on flights, and the rest were used on hotels, and out-of-pocket cost is around $1,100. It's not the best redemption, and there's always room to maximize, but this is what I wanted to redeem some of my orphan points on. My wife wanted to go to Asia. We don't have a big flexible time window, so we had to make do with what we had. Availability wise, award availability wise, and date wise, and redemption wise, it's very slim pickings. Beggars can't be choosers, and so that's why we made this redemption. Keep in mind that I do this for a living, so I earn more points than a typical person, and I redeem more points than a typical person because I want to showcase some of these experiences with you guys, my viewers, so that you can make those redemptions yourself if you want to, and pick and choose which redemptions you want to make. And it also gives a little bit more variety to my content well, and shows you that I actually do travel with my miles and points, and traveling with your miles and points is possible. So a typical person would not be redeeming this many points. A typical person would not be earning as many points as I do. And again, I do this for a living, so I do this on a different scale than a typical person. And so if you want to watch a video on how I earn all my American Express points, you can check out this video over here. It's not a secret. I don't do any MS or anything crazy like that. I just kind of use all the strategies that I tell my followers to do. I just do it on a different scale than most people. So keep that in mind. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.